Good morning and welcome to our presentation of 36 Hours in Berea County. I am Brianna Dennis.
And I'm
and I will be starting the presentation with a group presentation that we all put together. So first we want to get started with who are we? We are from EPG, which is a Berea College program. It is a multi-year undergraduate program, and we work in the Eastern Kentucky region to develop entrepreneurial skills that we will be able to take into the workforce, and that hopefully that the individuals that we work with will be able to use also. So we have 6 core learning goals. We seek to engage in complexity, explore values and ethics, facilitate group decisions, recognize opportunity, mobilize resources, and advocate for change. So our hope is that by the end of this presentation, you will be able to see how EPG plus social media plus Berea County equals community-driven tourism enhancement. We also hope that you understand that EPG went through Eastern Kentucky, and we particularly went through Berea County, and we evaluated the assets that the county had. And assets can be historical, they can be cultural, there are things that the community itself values. And we want to show those assets here in our presentations today. So you will see several assets that we have found here. We've invited you here so that you can share in our research and so that you can help us as we try to help you make it a community working together thing. So just to show you some of our previous work, we have been to Western North Carolina and we've been to Berea. And when we go to these different places, we go and find all the assets, just as we did here in Berea County. And then we write reviews. And as you can see, this individual over here from our class, she has 70 reviews written, but that's just on Yelp. And each of us has our own Yelp account, and we all have approximately 70 or 80, depending on which form you decided to use the most, you would have the most reviews on that. So, just to talk about Berea County real quick. Berea County was founded in 1821. The county seat is Hazard. It is located in the Crad region, which is where we particularly do most of our EPG work. The average household size is 2.63, and the population is 28,751, and the median household income is just over $31,000. So now we're going to look at the background. Berea County is known for its coal mining. It is a highly prized employer for the region for many years. But the problem is that the production of coal is decreasing, and due to advancements in technology, current market pressures, and stricter environmental regulations. So you have to think of what happens to the community after coal. And then we think to moving to a more service-oriented type of economy in order to help the community survive during the decline of the coal. So we have here an article where Arch Coal has laid off 750 workers, and this is a very recent article from the published June 21st. And as you can see here, we have this is a coal mining place, and this is the mountains before they get cold. And since coal has been such an impactor on the community, it's going to be hard to shift from having coal, but it's something that has to happen. And according to 4 years ago, it was 50%, and at the end of the decade, it's likely to be near 30%. So it's something that is definitely declining very rapidly. So then we want to look at making it a service industry. So we look at tourism. And in order to look at tourism, you have to see how people spend their money. And so if you look here, in 2010, direct expenditures is money that is spent directly by the tourists in the county. And the total is like the tourists and the taxes and different things combined. And as you can see, it increased in 2011 from 29 as the direct to 30, and then from 46 to 48 in 2011. And so as you can see, it's showing that tourists are making an impact, and it is getting better each year. You just have to find out how to better get your tourists here. So next we're going to look at our triple threes. $3.3 billion is made from the tourism industry every year. And this is just from 2011. Tourism is the third largest industry in Kentucky. And despite tourism being the third largest industry, and despite the fact that there are $3.3 billion made, there are only 34% of people who come here can even recall hearing about advertisements about Kentucky. So, we have some other considerations to look at. 81% of people who come to this county come for peace and relaxation. 72% come because it's a clean and unspoiled environment, which is not very common here in the United States. 20% come for the campgrounds. 53% visit the state parks. 37% visit historical sites. 87% of the people who come here drive to the region. 96% of people who come here recommend to their friends to come here after they return off of their trip. And the average stay is 3.9 nights, approximately 4 nights. So people are coming here, and we can see and we study what they're coming here for. So it becomes a matter of how do you use that to your advantage. So first we're going to look at how do you use social media. So these are some of the social media forums that we have used this summer: Facebook, Google Places, Yelp, TripAdvisor, and Foursquare Check-in, which is also on Facebook. Social media is cheap because all of these websites are free to use. And 92% of the people who use these websites trust the opinions that their friends or that they read on the websites, whereas only 50% find paid advertisement trustworthy. So it is definitely a convenient place and a trustworthy place to find out information about that. So if we look here, if a business were to start a Facebook page, as our group did, we have 91 likes on our page. We could do statuses, we can upload photos or videos, we can do events and show milestones. And all of these things keep people engaged in your business. And if you can keep them engaged on a daily basis, they'll continue to return. And then if you start a page, you can look at the different reaches and how many people are talking about this. For example, here on this date, we made a status. And as you can see, our activity is higher. But on the dates that we didn't make a status, the activity declines. But then when we made a status again, you can see the activity increases again. So it is contingent upon your activity. Just having a Facebook page does not make people active. You have to be active to engage the people. So here we have TripAdvisor, and this is another social media thing that people do use. If you can see here, you can see all your friends if you connected with your Facebook that have also been to where you've been. You can see photos, there are reviews, you can see very good and excellent. And right from this website, you can book places to stay for the hotel, and you can even write your own review. So it becomes very convenient for travelers to use it because they don't have to go to different websites to book, and then they can see what people are writing and see how people feel in a very, very quick glance. And then another site that's just like TripAdvisor is Yelp, which is used by the younger audience. We have King's Food Court here, and then you can see that they gave it stars, there's reviews, you can add pictures over here. All of these things are important to travelers because they want to see the establishment, they want to see what other people are giving it, they want to see how many reviews. So the more reviews you can get people to write about your establishment, the better off you are when it comes to people trying to figure out if they want to travel here. So, we decided to use personas to highlight the assets that we found. And so our persona is a group of 10 people. They are all male, and they are fathers and sons. The story I'm going to tell is told from Joe's point of view, who is 55, and Steve is his son. Traveling with Joe and Steve are Michael and his 2 sons, James and Gary. There's George, Jacob, and his 2 sons, Jacob and Lewis, sorry. And then there's Rodney and his 1 son, William. So, these men were all friends growing up here in Eastern Kentucky as children. And when they got to college, when it came time for college, they left town, as a lot of people do, and they had not really started coming back until there were reenactments at Leatherwood, the Leatherwood reenactments. So the forefathers are all they're all war reenactors, and they are bringing their sons down here so that the sons can get into war reenactment, or at least just spend a weekend with their fathers away from their wives and their busy lives. So their limitations are that the older men cannot go for long periods of time without food, whereas the younger men can eat once or twice a day and they would be okay. And all the men depicted here are financially stable, and they are all middle class. So our group starts in Knoxville. This is where Joe lives, and all his friends live around in here as well. And so Joe decided, we're going to go to the reenactment. And he gets excited, and all his 4 friends are excited. But then they're like, oh, well, we should take our sons. And the sons are like, no, we're not going to a reenactment. That's old people things that I'm not staying outside in the heat. Even though it is in October, they use the heat as an excuse. So they're like, okay, well, how can we get our sons to go? And the sons only agreed to go if they only spent 1 day at the reenactment and they were able to explore the other few days that they were there. So they're only going to have 36 hours because everyone has to get back to work. So their trip starts on a Saturday morning and it goes through Monday because it's one of those holiday weekends. And so they start in Knoxville and they drive 3 hours to get to the Leatherwood reenactment site. And they arrive there at 1 o'clock. When they arrive, they are all greeting all of their old friends, and they're like, oh, I haven't seen you in a whole year, and it becomes this huge family reunion, and the sons are standing off to the side looking like, oh, these people are so odd, they're dressed in all these old clothes. And so eventually the reenactment starts, as you can see here, which is at 2 o'clock. And the sons sit over here and watch the reenactment, and they start talking to the children that are there that a school brought up for the educational purposes, and they get to find out that a lot of schools bring children up to see this so that they're able to see an important event that happened right here in their own town. So the funny thing about the Leatherwood reenactments, though, is that there was not a winner at the original battle. So they take turns winning. On Friday night, the Union can win. On Saturday night, the Confederates win. And then on Sunday, they can flip a coin and see who wins. So luckily today, on Saturday, the Union was winning because the forefathers are all dressed as Union members. So after they do that, from about 2 to 5 o'clock, they are famished. But they don't want to eat here. They want to head towards their hotel. So they pull out their phone, and particularly Stephen pulls out his phone and he goes, okay, I'm hungry, we're going to go through Hazard to get to our hotel, so what is there to eat at Hazard? So he pulls up Google Places, and Google Places tells him that there's a Circle T restaurant. So then he goes to Yelp, which is also an app that he has on his phone, and he types in Circle T to find out if there were any reviews. And luckily, he found several reviews. And this one right here, he said the sweet potatoes were to die for, they were delicious. There is a photo right here, and the stars that were given to it. All of this said, okay, I want to go here. But then what really kicked it in was that his father's like, I remember Circle T, I went there as a kid. We're definitely going there to get some pie. So they all go there to get pie and to get meals. Many of them get the hamburgers with the fried egg on top, which is delicious. Some people get the Philly cheesesteak sandwich, and then some get the chicken and dumplings. But everybody, whatever they get, they're extremely pleased and satisfied. And then at the end of their at the end of their dinner, they all have a different type of pie because there are several different flavors. So this venture totaled to be $150 for the Circle T restaurant meal for the 10 of them. So after that, they leave Circle T and they head to Buckhorn. Now, previous to coming here, Stephen had looked online to find out where are hotels that were near Leatherwood but far enough away that his father wouldn't be drawn back to battling. So he found the Buckhorn State Resort on TripAdvisor. And as you can see here, he could see the rankings, he could see how many reviews. And this one right here really caught his eye, having a blast at Buckhorn. And there are cabin-style furniture and design of the room, and you can experience a game of mini golf, a boat ride with friends, and relaxing time in the jacuzzi and pool. Now, it's October, but the boat ride could still be fun and still get mini golf. So he booked Buckhorn, and this is a picture of their room, and this is the lobbies. So as you can see, the reviews played a really big part. and why he picked Buckhorn versus going maybe to a chain type facility to stay. So the next morning they wake up and they have breakfast. And today they plan on fishing. So Buckhorn has, the resort rents several boats out to people. And they rented 2 pontoons. Each pontoon seats 10 people, but when you're fishing, you don't really want 10 people around you. So they rent 2, and there's 5 on each boat, and they go out fishing. And it's been years since they were fishing together. So the dads are loving it, and the sons are kind of like, oh, well, it's pretty. So the sons just start taking pictures with their smartphones, and then they start uploading them to Facebook. And the father's like, what are you guys doing? You're supposed to be fishing. And they're like, oh, well, we're taking pictures and putting them on Facebook instead. And so eventually everyone gets into the fishing. And by the time they're done fishing, each of them caught about 2 fish because they're not very good fishermen. But they were out there on the lake for 4 hours. And by the end of their fishing adventure, they had spent a total of $450. So then they decide they're hungry, but they don't want to eat here at the lodge. They want to go towards Hazard, where they're going to go do some other activities during the day. So his son once again whips out his phone, and he goes to Google Places and looks for places to eat that are near him. So then he finds the King's Pizza place, and he finds out that it has an ice cream bar, and it has great pizza, and the best thing is that it's cheap. Now, when these guys are at home, they aren't allowed to eat pizza and ice cream. Their wives feed them asparagus and carrots. And so it's a very depressing type lifestyle for a man. But while they're out, they're going to play and they're going to eat a whole bunch of junk food. So they come on out here to King's Pizza, and they order 5 pepperoni pizzas, and that costs them $15 because each pizza is $5. And the pepperoni pizzas are some of the best pizzas they've ever had. They expected them to taste like cardboard because they were $5, but no, they were fabulous. And so after they're done eating their pizza, they of course want ice cream. And as you can see here, there are several different flavors of the yogurt, the frozen yogurt that you can get, and then there's a whole bar full of toppings. They were in heaven. So they all got lots of yogurt and all different types of toppings, and that ended up costing them $40. So as we can see, as they're traveling through, they're leaving money where they go, which is what we want tourists to do. We want them to spend their money here. So afterwards, and this is Frojo's, which is the yogurt place. And if you can see here, there's a nice review. I love the pizza. This place and ice cream was indeed luscious. And they have 310 likes, and they have all of their information here. So they have likes, they have people talking about them, they have a sign in their store which says, like us on Facebook. So while you're sitting there, which is what most of the young sons did, while they were sitting there, they went to Facebook and liked them right off of their phones. So it's a very convenient way to advertise, and then they can still keep up with them once they leave. So next, the fathers wanted to go on a walking tour of their old stomping grounds because they grew up in downtown Hazard. And so they had gotten a pamphlet here at Buckhorn, and it told them all the history and how to do the walking tour. But being that they are older men, they were stubborn. So they did part of the walking tour, and then they did part of their own made-up tour from their memories, which weren't as well as the walking tour pamphlet, and some things they said were quite made up. So the boys ended up getting bored at the dad staring at old buildings and telling stories. So Steve once again pulls out his phone and he looks for something else to do that is near the downtown area, and he is able to find a review on Yelp for the Bobby Davis Park, and museum. And when he sees this, he takes note to this paragraph. And the mining tools, old dishes, and he likes history. He knows that his dads like history, and he'll do anything to get done walking in this town. So he says, Dad, let's go up here. So the whole group decided they're going to go to the park. And so here are some pictures. While they're at the park, they see the primitive technology. They see things like the sons had never seen anything like this, and it was really enlightening for them, although they didn't think it would be. They just used it as a getaway. And then here you have Miss Martha, who is the director of the museum, and she is showing them a book right here, which has some of the oldest pictures of Hazard in the book. So she's very friendly. She tells them all the information that she knows about everything, and then she tells them about the histories of the trains, which they did this past summer. And so they're actually really, really interested, and they're glad that they went. But since the building is very small, half of the group heads outside to the garden and they look at the waterfall, and then they spend time there and then they head off. So they had planned to go elk riding. They did this before they came. They had called and said, okay, we want to come elk riding, we'll be here. So, or not elk riding, I'm sorry. Horseback riding to view the elks.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
We have a new tourist attraction.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
We're wrangling elks today. But before they go, they pass this bakery called Pie Cakes, and it's a very new bakery here. And they're like, oh, we have got to get cupcakes, and we're not going to eat dinner before our horseback riding, so we'll get a snack here, even though they had filled up on ice cream and pizza earlier. So they come here and get a snack, and then on the inside there is a sign that says, like us on Facebook. So of course, they pull out their phones and they start liking them on Facebook. As you can see, they have over 1,000 likes, and then they have their name and all this information, which is very important. And then even more important than all of the information they put, you have other people saying, I love your cakes, you're very talented. That's what's important, is that you have your customers commenting, you have your customers liking. So they spend about $50 there on cupcakes. So then they leave and they go to the Saddle Up Elk Tours, where they meet with Bernice and her husband for a tour. And so when they get there, Bernice tells them that it's mating season, so when we go out, you'll hear mating calls, you'll see mating rituals. You know, you can't get really close to any of the animals because it's dangerous during mating season to be getting really close, but she guaranteed that they would be seeing elks and be seeing all of this. And so all of them were horseback riders, so she didn't have to teach them how to ride a horse. She just had to take them out, and it was wonderful. So they go out, and they go out to the wildlife sightseeing area, and they see all of these elk, and they have a wonderful time. They hadn't been horseback riding in years, and they definitely hadn't been with their dads or their sons, so the horseback riding was leisurely, although it was still exciting because it's like, oh my gosh, there's an elk over there versus there's an elk over here, and then it became a really, really exciting thing for them, and they said they were definitely going to come back to Bernice, because Bernice and her husband were extremely helpful during the entire tour of the mountain. And so here they spent $700. So then they were, of course, hungry and ready for dinner. So they asked Bernice, hey, where should we go that's in Hazard, because that's on the way back to the hotel? And she says, well, there's this new restaurant, J-Bo's, but I haven't really tried it. So, of course, one of them pulls out their phones and they pull up their Yelp app. And so they go on Yelp and they find the J-Bo's State of Mind, and they find the reviews, and once again they see beef brisket, and Joe loves beef brisket, and it says it's absolutely divine, it's seasoned just right, it's succulent, it's an upper class feel. That's the perfect place for them to have dinner. They've been stuffing their faces with junk food all day, they can have a good, decent meal. So they go to J-Bo's. And so the father, of course, has the beef brisket. Stephen has the glazed chicken. Another person has the Carr Creek catfish. And the menu is so expansive that they don't have to order the same thing. So they're able to try off of each other's food, and everything is delicious. And so they decide to pass dessert because they had already had so much sweet stuff for the day. But they definitely enjoyed the food, and even more than the food, they enjoyed the titles of the food, because where else can you get an Eastern Kentucky hot brown besides Eastern Kentucky at J-Bo's? So after that, their meal totaled right here to $200. And then, as you can see, there was a like us on Facebook. So they, of course, went to Facebook and they liked them, and they had this many likes, and this is how many people, it's what people are saying, and this is a shot of their menu and their different things, which is all important to the tourists. They want to be able to see things, they want to be able to see it quickly. So, and this also keeps them in touch with them. And so that's from 8 to 9 p.m. And then they head back to Buckhorn to get to sleep. So they wake up early in the morning again at 8 a.m. and they have breakfast, which is the continental breakfast, which is downstairs here, provided for all the residents. And then it's time for them to go. So on their way out, the receptionist at the desk, she tells them, you guys should go by and see the Law Cathedral, which is right here. And they didn't know anything about it, but they're like, okay, we may as well, it's on our way out, we're going that way. So they go by and see the Law Cathedral. And they are absolutely amazed by how expansive it is on the inside. The ceilings are high, all of this is still wood, the piano is beautiful, everything to them is just so well kept. And they're like, this building is so old, I don't understand how they've kept it so well. So it's like a little treasure to them. But at first, they were only standing on the outside looking in. And then a man came down in an old beat up truck and says, here are the keys, go on inside. And they were taken aback by the fact that some random man had just given them keys to the church. But they went on in and they fought with the door for about a half an hour. But once they got in, it was definitely well worth the view. And so then they gave the guy the keys back and they talked with him a little bit about, you know, how they had grown up around here. And he had also said, oh, I grew up right here, I work at this store, and, you know, the church is ours, so the church is yours. And that's why he had given them the keys. But where they are now, they don't have that kind of hospitality. Nobody's just going to walk up and give you the keys to a building and tell you to go in and not watch you. So they were it was a really pleasant experience, especially for that early in the morning. So they then decided that they wanted to go golf. And previous to coming here, they had looked for golf courses that were near Buckhorn. And one of the ones that was rated highly was the Sugar Camp Golf Course, which is not in Perry County, but it was only an hour away. And so they figured they could make that trip up and then come back down, and it would not be a problem because they were headed home anyway. So they go to Sugar Camp Golf Course, and it's an 18-hole course, but they only play 9 of the holes because to get 10 people through 18 holes would take an extreme amount of time. So they play only 9 holes, and this cost them about $400 for the few hours of playing the golf, which is from 10:30 to 12:30. And so then they're ready to go home, but they think about they have wives waiting at home, they have kids waiting at home. We didn't buy them anything while we were here. You can't come home without presents. So, of course, Steve whips out his phone and he's trying to think of where you can get arts and crafts because his mother had went to Berea College and she was into arts and crafts and the artists in history. So he's like, ooh, if I can get her arts and crafts stuff, I'll be good, I don't have to worry about anything. So he finds the Appalachian Artisan Center, which is on their way out. It's on Hyman, in Hyman, Kentucky. And he finds this on Google Local. And then he also finds a review right here, where she says it's a great place to stop. There's 200 Southern and Eastern Kentucky artists. There's delectable items in the cafe. They hadn't eaten lunch yet, so it was like, this is a great place to go. We can have lunch in the cafe, we can buy everybody gifts, and then we can go home. So they go here to buy everybody gifts and to have lunch, and they all have different types of sandwiches and drinks, and it's just a nice cool down period after a rough game of golf in which the sons lost very badly to their fathers. So these are some of the gifts that they were able to procure while they were there. So then they leave there and they head back home, which is a 3-hour drive. So you can trace their entire route, which actually isn't very far from them. They start here and they go here, and this is Buckhorn, and then they go up to Jackson for the golf. Come here and they come back down. And the funny thing is that the distance from here to here is 3 hours, and the distance from here to here is 3 hours. So they don't gain or lose anything by going back a different way than which they can. So afterwards, you have to say, after the trip, this is one of the most important parts. What happens when they get back home? Well, when they get back home, Steve teaches Joe how to use Yelp and TripAdvisor because he had used it the whole trip and Joe had found it very convenient. And he's like, I need to know how to use this because I travel more often than you do anyway because I'm about to retire. So he learns how to use these mediums, and then he writes reviews of the different places that he went. All the young guys had been liking the places that told them to like them on Facebook. They had been taking pictures and posting them to Facebook. They had been tagging each other in pictures. So all of this is recorded on the internet. Everyone can see it. It's all public knowledge. And then they also still verbally spoke to their friends because the internet is not the only way to communicate. So they verbally told their friends that they had a wonderful trip. So they're part of that 93% that goes back home and says, we had a wonderful trip. And the best part, they plan to come back next year to plan a different venture.
So what's your